So it's been several hours since the announcement of Bobby Petrino taking the reins as the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. How you feeling? You feeling a little better now? When the news first dropped on Twitter, which is where it dropped, I saw a ton of negative Aggie reactions to it. Oh, we're hiring this guy. We waited all this time for Bobby Petrino. Are you kidding me? Burn it down. All that stuff. And it seems like over the past few hours, it's been about 24 plus hours since the announcement, things have definitely cooled off. A lot of Aggies have turned the page, turned their opinions towards a more positive light. And I think once you really think about the hire and where Texas A&M was in 2022, where they need to be, what they need to do, what was available, you start feeling a little bit better about things. But there are definitely some ethics to sort through and some history to get over and some history to talk about and reflect on and think about going forward if you're a diehard football fan, if you're a diehard Aggie. But yes, Bobby Petrino will be the offensive coordinator, unless he takes another job before, in 2023. And in classic Bobby Petrino fashion, it was after he had signed to coach at UNLV. He went back after the rumors had circulated a few weeks before. He went back to Texas A&M and is now going to be the offensive coordinator. So there's a lot to get into in the world of Aggie football, starting with Bobby Petrino, dissecting that hire, dissecting Bobby. And of course, there are other things going on that I haven't talked about since I haven't talked to you guys since before the new year. We got Demani coming back. We have a couple of new pickups, one of them being a 2023 guy, one of them being a portal guy that I'm sure you know about. I'll briefly touch on them later in this video. And a little bit of sliced bread coming back into the fray. Going back onto that topic, I'll get into that at the very end of this video. But of course, first, we must start with the man of the day, the week, man of the year. It's 2023, Bobby Petrino. Let's go. Of course, as these things tend to happen, the announcement came on a seemingly unimportant Wednesday afternoon in the middle of January. Everyone's going about their merry work day, and all of a sudden, it gets tweeted that A&M is finalizing the hire of Bobby Petrino as OC. And as I said before, the negative reactions came flooding in from various Aggie sources, fans, talking heads. A lot of people were very negative about it right away. And it makes sense. On the surface, what is Bobby Petrino? You think of the scandal first, and I say scandal singularly because there's kind of one that rises above the rest. If you don't know, I'll briefly say, after having a successful tenure at Arkansas, I believe like 2008 to 2012, within that era, he came to a press conference after being in a major motorcycle accident. It came out later that he was in the accident with a young female staffer that he had hired onto the football staff because of an affair he was having with her. She was a younger girl, nothing illegal, not a minor or anything like that, but still a very much frowned upon situation where he gave her the advantage of getting the job even though she was underqualified, gave her money gifts, and just a very unsavory act for a married man in the workplace. So he was fired because of this. I'm sorry if I'm leaving out blanks, but y'all can look it up. It's history. It's been about 10 years now. That's kind of the thing that Bobby Petrino is most known for, more so than any coaching success he's had, and he's had a lot of good coaching success. Very good play caller, very good offensive mind. We'll get into that in a minute, but as I've already kind of started doing, I want to bring up the negatives of Bobby Petrino. Bobby's known for short stints at programs. He's known for leaving jobs early. He's known for just kind of getting out of there, biting the dust, just going. I don't remember which year it was, but he was coaching an NFL team. I believe he was coaching the Falcons with Mike Vick. The year Mike Vick got arrested for the whole dogfighting thing, and he left the Falcons in the middle of the season and just left a note card behind to all of his players saying deuces in so many words, about 4 sentences to be exact. But things like that and just short stints, leaving contracts early and then getting fired for the thing that he got fired for at Arkansas, all that stuff is part of the Bobby Petrino package. And you like to think a man can change. You like to think that it's time to lock in and really make your final name for yourself because you did have success as an OC as a head coach at times. You won a BCS game at Arkansas. You led Arkansas to its best stretch in its most recent history. So you've done some good things, but you have several black clouds hanging over your career. And like I said, you like to think a man has changed, but he just did something similar to UNLV. Now, I will say he left it for a much higher profile and more Bobby Petrino-esque job at A&M. Because, I mean, A&M's kind of the show right now. I mean, it's in the media forefront, and not in a good way. Seems like a hand-in-glove fit for a guy like Bobby Petrino to go to A&M, especially after signing with UNLV. So you like to think a man has changed, but he just did what he's known to do. Is that something that should worry A&M fans? Is that something that should worry Aggies? I mean, sure, a little bit, but he did choose A&M. So you have that going for you. Bobby Petrino is known for this kind of thing. Hopefully, A&M can avoid it, at least for a couple of seasons. So all of that being said, it makes sense that A&M fans were initially very hesitant about this hire. But I believe that the key factor that kind of started turning the page for Aggies was the reaction by the national media and fans of locations that Bobby has previously coached at, namely Arkansas and Louisville fans. If you go to the Arkansas message boards, they're freaking scared right now. They don't like that A&M has this guy that had so much success in turning around an Arkansas program as the head guy, turning around an offense that was very sluggish before, making a name out of a quarterback in Ryan Mallett who maybe wouldn't have had that same career if it weren't for Bobby Petrino. So it was initially very negative. But many people, including Nick Saban, there's a Nick Saban quote out there. I'll see if I can find it and put it on the screen. There's a Nick Saban quote out there saying he's a great play caller. There are previous players, or at least one that I've seen, saying that Bobby was the best play caller he'd ever coached for. Bobby can call freaking plays and run an offense. Not many people will dispute that. What he does is he calls it an FTS offense, feed the stud. And it's very similar to what Jimbo does. He's very multiple, though most recently he's been running very much the spread offense. I don't know if that has to do with the division he was in, but previously he would run the power spread. Basically, he runs what it takes to get his best players the ball, and I kind of feel like Jimbo does that a little bit, although Jimbo does highly prioritize avoiding any kind of tendencies. I'm not sure how much Bobby leans into that philosophy, but I love the idea of the feed the stud approach, which he has several times admitted was his main overall philosophy of his play calling. So with that being the case, players like Evan Stewart, Moose Muhammad, I expect a lot of targets and play calls solely dedicated to getting them the ball in space. I expect a lot of Connor Wigman run, Connor Wigman throwing on the run, a lot of him just kind of freestyling at times and being allowed to do so more so than we've seen before. Over the last 5 years, it does kind of feel like quarterbacks have not been having a green light to kind of just take the play into their own hands, which a lot of the greats in college do. That's kind of a trope of great quarterbacks in college. Think of Johnny Manziel, the best freestyler we've ever seen. So you hope to see more of that under Bobby, but you know that this guy is going to try to get playmakers involved. I look forward to whichever running back they choose as running back one, or if it's a committee. I mean, Reuben Owens could be an absolute monster under Bobby. I think these players should be very excited. And one already tweeted his excitement in Donovan Green, the good ag. Donovan Green is such a great guy. I mean, okay, so Evan Stewart, he posted another cryptic tweet, which he seems to do because it seems like Evan Stewart's a smart businessman. He seems very strategic with his tweets, when to post, what to post, how clearly or how vaguely to post. He posted an ellipses. Is it ellipses, the 3 dots? Right after the hire was announced. And, you know, that got the Longhorn fans all riled up. That got them salivating because, you know, they all want Evan Stewart really bad. Better than any receiver they have. But, you know, I think he's just a smart businessman trying to get engagement on his Twitter. Probably getting some follows, getting some likes, getting some retweets. Meanwhile, Donovan Green retweets a picture of him and Evan. Very, very positive. Let's work. Let's go. I'll put it on the screen. I can't think of the quote right now. Donovan Green's such a good Aggie. It seems like whenever times are down or times are questionable, Donovan Green is there to soothe the hearts of Aggies. Donovan Green is a great guy. So yeah, it does seem like Aggie fans turned the corner because they realized that other fan bases and non-biased parties think positively of the hire, think that A&M needed to make some kind of drastic move to dig themselves out of the hole that they dug themselves into in 2022. It's kind of like, oh, you think it's good? Fine. Maybe it's good. That kind of thing. Of course, a lot remains to be seen until we see what happens on the field. But overall, the feeling has shifted. So let's talk about the fit with A&M, or kind of the way he slides into A&M after a very unsuccessful, disappointing 2022. He's been involved in a few very sharp turnarounds, and some as the OC, some as the head coach. In 1997, Louisville averaged 22.27 points per game. In comes Bobby Petrino as OC. In 98, they averaged, and let me make sure I get this number right, 39.42 points a game. So they went from 22 before Bobby to 39 in year one under Bobby. 97 to 98. I'll put some graphics on the screen so you can tell I'm not lying. That's a pretty sharp turnaround. And then he coached Cadillac Williams, funnily enough, Auburn, 01 to 02. Oh, also, Louisville won one game in 97, ended up winning 7 games in 98. Big improvement. Just obviously, when you're going to make that big of a point-scoring difference, things are going to get better for your win-loss. In Auburn, 01, before Bobby, 22 points per game. After Bobby, 29 points per game. Smaller improvement, but they went from like a 7-win team to a 9-win team. I mean, those are some good turnarounds. Those are as OC, not as head coach. That's the impact of Bobby as an OC. And obviously, no two systems are the same. I mean, no two situations are the same. Different era of football. But still, that's on his track record. Obviously, with Arkansas, he led Arkansas to a BCS win. He turned Arkansas's program from okay to good, really good. That's got to count for something. And of course, that tenure got cut short. Who knows what he could have led Arkansas to. And then more recently, when he was the head coach of Louisville in the mid-2010s, he had Lamar Jackson. And many will claim that Lamar Jackson covered up any flaws that Bobby may have had, but he still had a Heisman quarterback. He still led those Louisville teams to whatever they did. I don't have the records in front of me. But he had a Heisman quarterback. So there's some positives. There's some really high highs with him going into a program and having an immediate impact, especially as an OC with those two examples I just brought up. So it's really exciting to see him take the reins of this program where he will have the best talent he has ever had. And there's no debating that. In college, he's never had higher profile athletes at the skill position, at the offensive line, at quarterback. It's a blank slate for Bobby to do masterful work with. So we'll see what happens. But I've been kind of giving you the facts, the general thoughts. How do I feel about the thing? And I'm sure you really care about this. But essentially, I think it just comes down to your ethics. Do you believe that a man can change in 10 years? Do you believe a man can learn from his lessons? I'd like to believe he does. It does feel kind of slimy to hire a guy with the scandal on his resume that Bobby does. But I'm also the kind of person that believes that you can come back from things. He didn't kill anybody. He almost did. So, I mean, that's almost not a relevant point. But I like to believe that people can come back from their mistakes. I like to believe that people need to learn from their mistakes. We'll see if they have. I think the short stints thing is just a thing about Bobby. Just the fact he doesn't spend a lot of time at each program. I don't think he'll be here that long because he probably wants to be a head coach somewhere. You never know. He's getting older. Maybe he just wants a place to stop and win at. Could be A&M. I think we should be very excited about the offense next year. I think he has a track record of turning programs around, turning offenses around more specifically, and I think he's poised to do that here at A&M. And I think overall, more so than Bobby himself, well, it is kind of to do with Bobby himself. Bobby's a very experienced head coach taking the offensive coordinator position. Jimbo previously said that if they hired someone that he was confident in to run the offense, that he would step back and let them do it. And I think Bobby is exactly what Jimbo was referring to. I think a guy like Bobby Petrino is the exact kind of guy that Jimbo can be confident in. And not only can Jimbo be confident in him, I think he's the kind of guy that will maybe even snatch the offense away from Jimbo a little bit. You're talking about an old man that ain't afraid to leave. What's Jimbo going to say to this guy? What can Jimbo do to get in this guy's ear in a negative way? I mean, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate. I'm kind of thinking worst case scenario here where Jimbo's in this guy's ear wanting to kind of still run things his way, and Jimbo still will have an impact. But I think Bobby is the exact kind of guy to take this thing and run. The exact remedy to what I thought A&M's biggest problem of 2022 and the whole Jimbo era has been. And that's been having a head coach that's split between offense and running a program. And with today's day and age, NIL, transfer portal, managing your own team, managing players, managing young egos, I think it's so important for Jimbo to become the CEO, and I think this is the exact guy to let him do it. So I think that alone, outside of the X's and O's, outside of the play calling, which I think has a chance to be really positive, I think the fact that you get a guy like this is an extremely good thing for Texas A&M's football program. That's just my thoughts. I'm willing to not look past, but believe that a man has moved on and learned from his mistakes. I'm okay with the hire. In fact, I think it's a positive for the program. I think A&M will improve from this. So yeah, that is the news of the year so far. Bobby Petrino is the coach, but I haven't talked to you guys since before the new year, and several things have happened. First and foremost, Demani Richardson returning for his 5th COVID year of eligibility. Yes, Demani's back, and I think, and many of you probably think, it was the right thing to do for Demani. Demani's good. He's had great moments at Texas A&M, but it does feel like he has some untapped potential even going into year 5. I think back to year 1 versus Alabama at home, where he intercepted Tua in the end zone, one of the only college players, if not the only, to intercept Tua. Tua was damn near perfect, especially that year in college. And I just thought back to how much hope I had for Demani's career. And while Demani has definitely taken steps every year as a leader, as a player, I think he still hasn't taken the leap, if you know what I mean. And I think having 4 years under his belt in college, which most people can't say and then come back another year, and then finally getting into his second year under Durkin, because changing coordinators does kind of slow things down in your development a little bit. It's happened to me several times. I think all of that combined is going to allow Demani to have a chance to have his best year yet and really become a top half of the draft kind of guy if he's able to take that leap, which we've all kind of felt he has in the chamber still. Aside from all that, it's really good for this football team. You lose Antonio Johnson, you lose Jalen Jones, your 2 most tenured and experienced guys besides Demani, and Demani has more experience than even them. So losing them, you're really glad to retain a 4-year guy in Demani. It's so weird to say that. This guy's going to have like 5 years of starting experience in college. That's like unprecedented. But between him, Chappelle, Jardin, those are going to be the leaders of the secondary, and those young guys are really damn good too. And of course, you also got the transfer out of Florida State. Sam McCall was a high 4-star guy in the 2022 class, played some special teams with Florida State last year, had a few tackles, but ultimately entered the portal and is going to be an Aggie this year. And between him and Tony Grimes, you're really galvanizing that secondary that was already looking pretty strong, but just needed some depth to fill in, and you're doing just that through the transfer portal. McCall is a bigger defensive back, a versatile guy. I could see him playing nickel, safety, maybe some corner. Really good guy to get in there. And then moving to the other side of the ball, you get the 4-star receiver flip from Georgia in Raymond Cottrell. Another big-bodied guy. You don't really have many of those in your offense right now. So it's good to get another big guy to go with Noah Thomas because Evan Stewart, Moose, Anias if he comes back, these are all smaller receivers. So it's good to get that versatility in your program. And it's good to get a second receiver in this class because Tease is a good prospect to get in, but he's another smaller guy. So you have both ends of that spectrum of receiver coming into this class now. And plus, he was a Georgia guy. And if Georgia wanted him, he's probably a pretty good guy. So really positive stuff to see in terms of player acquisition, player attainment. Are things trending positively? I mean, I don't think it's a straight line up. And as I've said on this show before, success in life or in football is rarely or even never a straight line to the top. It has its ups and downs. You lost out on Anthony Hill, but then you closed good on your recruiting class outside of that. So yeah, things just go up and down, and now things seem to be trending in a positive way. I like the Bobby Petrino hire. I rated it an 8 out of 10. I like getting all these players back. It's all very important stuff. Now what A&M needs to do now is go and find some damn linebackers in the portal. Oh, and real quick, since I was just talking about receivers, a quick shout out to Jalen Preston. I hope this guy returns. I forgot to mention him when I was talking about receiver depth last video. I feel kind of bad about it because he's been a 4 or 5 year leader now. He's another big body guy to go into that room. Just a reliable guy that whenever you need to plug him in, he seems to make a big play or two. But just a great person and leader to have on this team. Hopefully he comes back. If he enters the portal, you totally understand that. But he's a guy that Aggies should be excited to see back if he does choose to. He's still up in the air, along with Layden Robinson, who we hope will also return. Well, speak of the devil, right when I'm literally about to post this video, Layden Robinson declares he's returning. He's back. Huge leader in the offensive room, but specifically on the offensive line, but just a great representative of the team. He's oftentimes in the media press conferences. He's very well spoken. He's just a great leader. He's been someone we thought would be an absolute world beater on the offensive line ever since he had some mop-up duty in his freshman year. But he's a guy that A&M frankly needed back because the offensive line had so many struggles this year, so many issues with continuity, and getting that senior leader back is just so huge. So awesome to see it. Layden Robinson, welcome back home, buddy. Oh yeah, and I mentioned the sliced bread comment. Remember last year when the fabricated $30 million paid for this class in the huge NIL collective? $30 million was the number. And it came from a post on Bro Bible from a poster named Sliced Bread, made famous by Jimbo Fisher, bringing even more light to the subject, which you can debate was a good choice or not. But that was like the lingo amongst detractors from A&M's success in 2022's recruiting cycle. Well, it turns out Ruben Owens was in a 247 interview this last week where they asked what he could be making NIL-wise this season, and he said, about 6 figures if I score touchdowns and take part in commercials, etc., etc. 6 figures for the highest profile recruit in this class. I think it was maybe 6 figures, or probably 6 figures. So let's say around 100 to 150,000 in NIL, and that's the highest possible profile recruit in a class this year. And maybe there were like 6 or 7 Ruben Owens last year, but that doesn't come close to adding up to 30 million. Sliced Bread, I'm sorry, but you have been debunked. This is just a little piece of evidence, I think, against that whole narrative in 2022, where that whole class was just pay for play. $30 million collective going towards this class. Bunch of bullshit. None of that was real. Nick Saban wasn't real when he said that. Nick Saban was talking to his boosters more so than anything. But come on, guys. We're still quoting Sliced Bread. You have no idea how many people I see defend this narrative still to this day on Twitter. I guess you're going to hate on greatness no matter what. But, yeah. Hopefully this class does become great and win at the highest level at Texas A&M. But that's another subject. The 30 million thing is just so fabricated. That's all I wanted to say on that. So yeah, that about sums up what's going on in the world of Aggie football right now, and it starts and ends with Bobby Petrino. That's the news of the year. But guys, if you made it this far, I ask you to please subscribe to my channel. I try to bring you guys as much Aggie football talk, thought, and updates as possible. I want to get involved with you guys in the discussion, so if you comment, I try to answer every single comment. And I'm going to leave you guys with a question on this one. What do you think of the hire? Simple as that. What do you think of the ethics of it? X's and O's wise, does it fit? Overall, what do you think? So guys, I'll see you next week. I'm going to get back on my weekly schedule. Holiday season was a mess. I'm sorry for missing a week. But look out for my videos every single week where we discuss the latest trends in Aggie football. Thanks for watching, guys. Gig 'em.